Go Blue, and welcome to the Big House Breakdown. This is all things college football related with a focus on the mighty, mighty great Victor's Valiant, your Michigan Wolverines. I'm your host, Vic, and you are tapped in for an hour long get up for rivalry week. That's right, we are playing our rivals this week. Them little brothers, them dirty little bros from down south across the state, the Michigan State Spartans, led by Aiden Childs and all the rest, Nick Marsh and company. And we will get into all things that pertain to them in one moment. But first, we have to do the college football week 8 that was. Let's get into it. Let's get that work. Okay, here we go. So, college football top 25. 1 is Ohio State. 2 is Indiana. 3 is Texas A&M. 4 is Bama. Shout out to baby girl. 5 is Georgia. 6 is Oregon. 7 is Georgia Tech. 8 is Ole Miss. 9 is the U, Miami. 10 is Vanderbilt. 11 is the BYU Cougars. Surprise, surprise. 12 is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 13 is the Oklahoma Sooners. Don't our Michigan boys wish they had that one back again? 14 was Texas Tech Red Raiders. The number 15th is the Mizzou Tigers. I'm glad they're holding strong. Shout out to Sanjay down there doing her thing. 16 is the Virginia Cavaliers. Surprise, surprise. Not an annual thing. 17 is the Tennessee Vols. South Carolina Bulls is 18. Pulling up at 19 is Louisville. Don't they miss Lamar Jackson? Number 20 is LSU Tigers. Chip Kelly on the hot seat. 21 is those Cincinnati Bearcats. Shout out to my teammate, PDQ, Sam Garnes of the Cincinnati Bearcats. And then number 22 is the Texas Longhorns. Didn't they fall off like a rock? Didn't they fall like an asteroid from outer space from the top 10, top 5, as it were? 23 is the Fighting Illini. 24 is the Sun Devils. And 25 and back and better than ever in the top 25 is your Michigan Wolverines. And we'll be creeping as the rest of the season progresses. Don't you worry. Don't you fret. Michigan is going to make the game the game. And that was your top 25 for, the week 8 that was. You know what I mean? So also what we want to get into for the top for week 8 in review is the top players for week 8. So after week 8, 2025 college football, some of the top performers include Dante Moore, uh, threw for 288 and 4 tutties against Rutgers, rushed for 41 yards. Now for the Michigan Wolverines, our defensive end, Demo, Derek Moore, recorded 4 heater pressures, one that was almost like a forced fumble, including a pair of sacks, a forced fumble, and in Michigan's win over Washington. Quality win. Um, Fernando Mendoza, quarterback of Indiana, completed 24-28 passes for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against Michigan State that we're going to get into. Okay, so we got the other ones coming up. Diego Pavea of Vandy, surprise, surprise, completed for 160 yards, rushed for 86 yards and 3 touchdowns and win over LSU. Um, Chip Kelly, man, that sphincter muscle must be real crazy right now for you. You know what I'm saying? That seat must be nice and toasty. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame, rushed for 228 yards on 24 carries versus USC. Gunnar Stockton of Georgia, 348 yards, passing, 5 touchdowns. in the win over Ole Miss. Man, I wanted Chambliss. I love the way Chambliss is passing. I love his style and his game. I was rooting for Ole Miss in that one, but Georgia was too much. Monte Quinn of Curry College. Wow. Broke an NCAA Division III record with 522 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns in a single game. Crazy. Iverson Hooks of UAB earned a PFF grade of 95 for his performance. Wow. Can't get better than that. Probably was the highest ranked receiver of the week. Zabian Brown of Bama returned a 93-yard, returned an interception, 93 yards for a touchdown, and only allowed 2 receptions in the whole day for his work on the field. And of course, we don't like Old State, but we're going to talk about him because he was a standout for the week. Orville Reese of Old State linebacker continued his performance for the Buckeyes. 5 sacks in the game in week 8. So those are your top week 8 performers. So you got your top 25. You got your top performers for the week. Now let's jump into the Heisman Watch. Boom. So leading the pack is Fernando Mendoza of Indiana after they beat Oregon. Then you got Dante Moore of Oregon still in there. Carson Beck of the U, Miami, pulling up number 3. Gunnar Stockton of Georgia, pulling up number 4 for Georgia. Jeremiah Smith, I don't know how this dude is still in the rankings. I don't know what he's doing week to week. I don't see the difference, but he's number 5 in Heisman voting for a wide receiver um, out of O State. And Joey Aguiar is coming through at number 6. Some other Heisman contenders to consider would be, I think I read off Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame, Marcel Reed out of Texas A&M, Josh Hoover out of TCU, Ruben Bain out of the U, who's an edge rusher, a lot of sacks on the year, and they got a player from Mizzou. Let me pan in real quick. I can't see that young man, but shout out to Mizzou. Give Mizzou some love on that particular young man and his quest for a Heisman. Yeah, man. So that's what we got going on during the Breakhouse Breakdown for our Heisman watch. You know what I mean? So we gave you top 25. We gave you best performers of week 8. We gave you the Heisman watch. And now, if college football playoffs were today, if the college football playoffs were today, who'll be in it? Who'll be finna get it? We're going to talk about it right now, as soon as it loads up. All right. So your top 4 teams will be the top teams in your AP poll that I just read out to you. Number 1 would be O State with a bye. Number 2 would be Indiana with a bye. Number 3 would be Texas A&M with a bye. And number 4 would be Bama with a bye. Wow, I remember Bama was in the teens. Now they number 4 in playoff bracketing. So those 4 teams, according to college football metrics, AP metrics, Associated Press, they would be the top 4 uh, in the college football playoffs with a bye, right? And then pulling up the rear, who would be your first slate of games if college football playoffs were today. Georgia would take on Notre Dame. 5 would play 12. Oregon would take on BYU. Number 6 would play number 11. Georgia Tech is in the playoff hunt. That's how college football has changed. And they're playing Vandy at number 10. So 7 would play 10. Speaking of great Scrooge's ghost, the ghost of Christmas past has jumped back into college football relevancy with Georgia Tech and Vandy. All right, Ole Miss would take on Miami as 8 would take on number 9. And you let us know what you think. Let us know what you think. What teams do you think will position themselves to be in the college football playoffs if the college football playoffs were today? Please make sure that you tap in. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment on the week 8 that was the top 25, the Heisman Watch, college football rankings, and the top performers. We want to hear from you. Talk about your crew in that particular way. All right, so now we're going to get into our week 9 top matchups. Now, I know my week 9 matchup that I'm looking to get into, which is the rivalry game of Michigan versus Michigan State. But some of the national top matches for the week. Ole Miss, Chambliss is spinning against Oklahoma and Mateer. We'll see if those things make a difference. We'll see if that game makes a difference in the college football landscape. It probably will. Ole Miss is looking to come back from that crazy loss, high scoring loss to Georgia last week. So look for Chambliss to spin and lead his team. You got South Florida at 18 taking on Memphis. Give me South Florida. They always seem to have a lot of talent, a lot of spillover because they recruit pretty heavy out of Recruit Central, which is still Florida. Mizzou is taking on Vandy. I'm interested to watch this game a little bit because I want to see what's so cracked up and so what is everybody going so crazy about Vandy for? They rank number 10. Let's see if Vandy is what they talking about or if it's more crap analysis. You know what I'm saying? Number 3, Texas A&M playing LSU. Chip Kelly better get the peanut butter and jelly ready, or he better duck from them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches coming at him if his team loses to Texas A&M. Give me Texas A&M in this one. Houston versus Zona State. That's always a tough one. Houston is always a game for anybody. They always got talent out of that hotbed for talent in Texas. Arizona always seems to give everybody a game. They're ranked 24. Do I think they could beat my Michigan Wolverines? Hell, Bucky, no. But they're there. So give me Arizona State in a close one, in a field goal game against Houston. Houston is talented. Don't sleep. Houston is talented. Let's see if we got a comment here. No, we don't got a comment here. Yeah, just come on in the chat. Leave your comments if you want to be a part of the show. You want to do what we do. You want to throw your little college boo boo out there. You know what I mean? You want to be a part of the college football ish that we talking right now on the Big House Breakdown. Please, the call letters are below. The way it go is you put it in your address bar and you put StreamYard.com ES9 N5DQ4SR, and you can be a part of what we're doing right now on the Big House Breakdown. I rock out regardless, but we would love to see you guys rock out with us here on the Big House Breakdown. That's my avatar. You know what I mean? I call my man Dapper Dan. So Dapper Dan is going to rock out with us in my stead. While you listen, Dapper Dan's going to give you the play-by-play, and we're going to keep it cooking. All right, man. So we here for this rivalry game. And I mean just dudes, I mean gals too, because I know we got a lot of Michigan gal fans out there. Please come on through. Drop your go blue. All right. So, we have all of the usual suspects here: Aiden Childs, Nick Marsh, and the rest taking on Bryce Underwood. We got good news this week on Justice Haynes coming back, but for the most part, Jordan Marshall will be spinning and cooking for the Maize and Blue in the backfield. We got D Mo and we got Andrew Marsh cooking at wide receiver for the maize and blue. They about to go head to head, and we're about to give you the matchups. All right, now what's pivotal about matchups? Matchups basically is per position who is better. We're going to give you the blue chip ratio, and that's going to ultimately lead up to the advantage that one club will have over another. Now, Michigan blue chip ratio is severely ahead of Michigan State's. They recruit better. Blue chip ratio is basically based upon how many of your recruits, how much of your team is a 4 or 5 chip prospect, and how much that's going to play into how your team assembles every week, gets on the field, and wins their matchups. So Michigan comes in as a 50% blue chip ratio as a team, ranked 10th in the nation, and uh, Michigan State only has 14% of a blue chip ratio on their team. So Michigan is ahead by about 40% in a blue chip ratio over Michigan State. So that should indicate, okay, let's see if we have some. All right, no comments, just well wishes. So we wish you well as well. Come on to the show and contribute. All right, so we're doing matchups. Okay. So we're talking about quarterback, and a lot of people believe that this is the game, but I beg to differ. Defense will, be key in this battle. But for now, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks because they're going to spin this game and they're going to determine a lot about the action that's going to happen in this game. No game managers this week, nothing but dual threat quarterbacks. That's right. I'm talking about Bryce Underwood and Aiden Childs. Both of them got hot wheels and they could spin that rock, make all the throws, make all the reads, do all the rest of it. Highly touted, highly rated, uh, big time, quarterbacks getting it done this week for the battle of Michigan rights in a rivalry game. Now we hope that the talent in this game will reign supreme over the nonsense, but we know it get real chippy, it get real saucy, it get real spicy when Michigan plays Michigan State. We remember the battle, we remember the fight in the tunnel, we remember um the Michigan linebacker, uh, you know, scraping his cleats off in the middle of Michigan State's logo because he hated him so much and they tried to disrespect him during pregame warmups in 2018. So we know it can get crazy with these two in the matchups. But back to the quarterback comparison. Well, they both have similar sets. Uh, Aiden Childs is a little more quicker than fast. Bryce Underwood is a little more faster than quick. Uh, Bryce Underwood makes every throw in the book. Aiden Childs struggles with his mid-range accuracy. Um, Aiden Childs has perfected those dump passes and screens out of the backfield on the season, and Bryce Underwood has really come on strong with his RPO game. Uh, hmm. Now, based on outcomes and stats and progression throughout the year, Aiden Childs has a little bit better of stats than Bryce Underwood, but Bryce Underwood leads his team. His team has a better 5-2 record, and Bryce Underwood has less turnovers on the season. Aiden Childs kind of is a turnover video game. So, what do you prefer in your quarterback? Would you rather your quarterback be efficient, less turnovers, great RPO game, could get out there and hot wheel it when he needs to? Or would you rather your quarterback hot wheeling it when he needs to, dinking and dunking, and throwing a bomb every now and again that may result in a turnover? I'm taking Bryce Underwood, and Michigan wins this QB matchup on the Big House Breakdown for Rivalry Week. Okay. So Michigan QB wins that matchup edge this week. Trying to just load this up. Give me a second. Okay. Boom. I think Bryce Underwood is just a little bit too much. So matchup edge goes to Michigan. Okay. So now we're going to get into running backs. Running backs, running backs, running backs. So let's talk about the Michigan backfield. Well, great news for the Michigan Wolverines this week. Their number one running back, their Heisman contender, Justice Haynes, has returned. And I'm sure he'll be on a pitch count because I think he might have had like some sort of chest or rib type of deal. And of course, I've had one of those playing in college. Extremely uncomfortable, extremely painful. They have to subside when they subside. Um, they probably have him in a flak jacket or some sort of rib guard so that he could take those, running backs when you hit the ground, that's part of, training yourself in football. You got to hit that ground. That's part of being in football shape. There's no other sport where you have to be in shape like that besides football and maybe rugby, where you have to be able to hit the ground, collect your faculties, and get back up and keep going. And Michigan is one of those sports. Football is one of those sports. Justice Haynes is one of those players that's having that particular problem, but never fear, because Law and Order is here. Justice Marshall will be getting all the spins. Justice Marshall had 135 yards last week. I believe he had at least one touchdown last week, if not two. He will be toting and running the train. He will be running the big boa, as they call it, for Big Blue, leading them in rivalry week. And also, the Michigan State Spartans will be led in their backfield by pulling up their roster now. Makai Frazier. Makai Frazier is a sophomore. Makai Frazier has some wheels. He can scoot. He's one of your one cut. He's one of your one cut running backs that can get from the backfield to the first level to the second level, climbing the ladder really, really fast for a running back, but they are having problems running the ball. So your running back goes as your O line goes. And I don't know if I think Frazier is going to be up to the task this week because that O line may not give him the holes and the pathways that he needs to be successful. So give me the Michigan running backfield with the explosive Haynes and the train Jordan Marshall doing their thizzle. All right. So I'm giving that matchup edge to the Michigan running back room doing their thizzle during rivalry week. So we're going to show that. Boom. So the matchup edge goes to the Michigan Wolverines backfield. Um, Let me just put edge in there so everybody knows what we're dealing with. Okay. So also moving along, we got wide receivers. So wide receiver is a complicated thing, especially for the maize and blue. Let's begin by talking about Michigan State wide receivers. So Michigan State told three really great wide receivers. Nick Marsh, who leads the team, many touchdowns. I believe he has over 400 yards on the year. Amari Kelly, who has three touchdowns on the year, senior transfer, and Krishan McCray. He's a junior transfer, and he has a couple tutties on the year as well. Good group. They lead the team in their offensive production. Um, and if anything, Michigan State is going to be looking to get into to create themselves an advantage versus Michigan Wolverines. They're going to be looking to show off and showcase their three wide receivers and Aiden Child spinning a rock to them. So they've been in some games this year. Um, but they've also contributed to some dropsies, and they've also contributed to some uh, pretty disappointing efforts that have resulted in turnovers. So I'm not sure. I'll get into it in the game inside the game, but I'll give you guys a little bit of a hint. I think some of these wide receivers from Michigan State are reading their own press clippings, trying to get their invite to Indiana, solidified. And if they're not getting the rock, they may not put their all into what they're doing play to play. And it may show up, which contributes to turnovers and poor play. So even and in a Michigan on the Michigan Wolverines side, we got Donovan McCulley, our number one receiver, doing it big. Our 6'5" ladder climber, jump out the gym, get the ball, uh, bungees like crazy. We need to target him a whole lot more. He's been really, really good for us this season. We need to get him involved with some uh fades in the end zones, make our life easy on us. And we also need to get him involved with some back shoulder catches. So, and then we also have Andrew Marsh, another Marsh, but Andrew Marsh, hailing from Texas, but he's getting it done for the Big Blue as our number two wide receiver, getting it in. Had the breakout game last week, 2 tutties and many, many yards on the board. And we just see great things rising from him. We need Maj. Come on, Maj. Come on through and finish out your season strong. Don't worry about the drops. Just catch the ball first, then make your move, then do your thing. And I love the way we used our tight ends to accent and add a second level to the passing game with Zach Marshall, and I hope we see some Marlon Klein this week. That would be great. Now, are we as active as the Michigan State receivers? No. So that matchup edge would go to the Michigan State wide receivers. And as we keep it moving, we're going to kind of rewind um, where we are with this. I'll just show you the matchup edge goes to the Michigan State wide Michigan. I'm sorry, I put the wrong one in there. Michigan State wide receivers. Little brother is good for something, I guess, right? So there we go. Yeah, Michigan State wide receivers gets the edge in that matchup. All right, let's talk O line. Okay, so let's go to Michigan State's O line. They have Stanton Ramil. They have Brocious, Gavin Brocious. They have Matt Gobin at center. They have Crispin Phillips. They got Matt. They got Connor Moore. Okay. And Nat Hales. And of course, tight ends are always a part of that inline blocking unit with Jack Velling, inline blocking for them. They don't do much very special with their tight end. So I'm going to include him in their run blocking. So when I looked at them on the all 22, Connor Moore is a little bit of a turnstile, and so is Gavin Brocious. Um, One thing that Wink Martindale likes to do is recognize the weak link, the weak sisters on the O line and take advantage of that. Um, so in every pundit from here to Berlin is quoted saying, especially Michigan State beat writers are talking about how poor Michigan State's O line plays. Now, I've watched them in a couple of games, and at times they give Aiden Childs a pretty clean pocket. I don't know where he's going with the football sometimes, but they give him a pretty clean pocket. Where they're poor at is running the ball. They don't really give much in the running game. They don't have much cohesion as a unit to help Michigan State in the run game. And the reverse is kind of what's going on with the Michigan line. Um, Jake Guarnera leads the Michigan line in run blocking and success, getting to the second level, blocking linebackers and safeties. That's always key for your run game to propel and excel. Of course, you got Crippen calling out the Raiders, the Jokers, and the Blitzers. You got Giovanni Ohadi, the captain there, to solidify the line. And of course, last week, my blooper, I called him Blake Sheldon, the country singer. But nah, he is Blake Frazier, the really hard working offensive tackle that subbed in for Evan Link when he got hurt. Evan Link's injury doesn't appear to be as serious as we thought it would be. Blessings to that young man. Hope he gets back healthy. Our offensive tackles have kind of taken a beating this season, not in performance, but with injury, and we hope they get back soon. The Michigan offensive line specializes in duo, pin and pull, and zone scheme blocking. And we got our freight train Jordan Marshall back there. So we have more than enough reason where we can grind it out, make the game easy on our offensive line so that we don't have to pass protect as much with Blake Frazier, young O lineman starting, but he's 6'6". He's a mountain of a dude, 300 pounds. He is doing his thing right now. I'm very proud of his play. So we're going to just wait and see how he handles his responsibilities, his matchup, and how that propels the Michigan running game and the Michigan passing game. The one good thing about Blake Frazier is he's very athletic for his size with a long, really, really big wingspan. So he should fare well against, crashing 5 techs and 7 techs because he has that reach and good feet. So, I'm going to give that matchup edge to the Michigan O line. Sorry about that. I'm going to give that matchup edge to the Michigan O line simply because I believe this game will be won on the line of scrimmage and in the trenches, running the ball with play action being the name of the game and RPO leading the way. So this edge matchup goes to the Michigan O line. All right, so let's recap. The Michigan edge quarterback goes to Bryce Underwood for his consistency and low turnovers, even though skill sets are the same. Running back edge goes to Michigan for the freight train that Jordan Marshall is and the lightning in the bottle that Justice Haynes is. Uh, Wide receiver matchup edge goes to Michigan State because of their productivity on the season, even though they get a little bit lazy and can lead to some turnovers. The I didn't do tight ends, but I would give the tight end matchup to Michigan only because of what we do with Max Bredesen, Zach Marshall, and Marlon Klein. We do something a little bit different than almost any team in the Big Ten with our tight ends. And also the O line matchup goes to Michigan because of what we can do with our run blocking and what we do with our RPO scheme will probably make the difference in winning the game this week from an offensive standpoint. So I would look to those things offensively in the game. Um, 4 out of 5 edges go to Michigan. So Michigan has the edge offensively in this matchup. Defensively, D line. Let's talk about Michigan State's D line. Okay. Michigan State brings in, they have, a mix kind of bag. Juniors, Jalen Thompson, active player, loves to stand up and come off the edge. Van Sumerian, Alex Van Sumerian, um, he's their D tackle. He floats between a 1 tech and a 2 tech, as they like to play that 40 scheme. Ben Roberts, He's a really tough one tech junior, and then Isaac Smith. He's your other defensive end coming through. They're a gutty bunch. They don't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They're versatile, but again, they don't get a lot of pressure, which makes, at least not according to the games that I watched in the All 22, and they have to bring a linebacker out of coverage to add pressure to the front to make them competitive that way, which always leads to kind of, intermediate and dump routes being successful. So and then of course the Michigan defensive line, Jay Sean Barham, Derek Moore, Rajon Benny, and Trey Pierce. Game breakers, all of them except for Jay Sean Barham left over from the championship roster. Of course, we rotate 10 different defensive tackles, which will wear a team down, and we rotate 6 defensive ends in Dominic Nichols and Cameron Brandt and Trey Guy. Trey Guy is very skilled, could be a little undisciplined at times. Jay Sean Barham is a matchup nightmare. And if he will keep his eyes and his technique in the right frame and play outside in, and just don't run like your hair's on fire and run past plays, he could be super effective LT ish in the game. And Demo is our Debo on defense, getting it done from the line, from the defensive end, the stand up defensive end position. He should surely, with the, he, I think he got the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week last week for his, 5 pressures and strip, force fumble, and 2 sacks. Um, so excuse me, and so I think he will probably get his ticket punched to Indianapolis for the draft, and he will figure in heavy in being super disruptive for Michigan versus Michigan State. One of these two guys will be a spy, or at least a kind of, keep an eye on Aiden Childs so that he doesn't just have free reign to run around and cause havoc with his wheels as a running dude, that quarterback. And excuse me. So I give the defensive line matchup edge to Michigan, because I think when you think of Michigan and you think of what type of a team they are, and you think of what you have to look forward to when you play them, offense or defense, you have to know who's on that D line, what that D line is doing, what they specialize in. Just ask Ohio State. They are, they sweating that Michigan D line every year. All right. So linebackers. Well, unfortunately, Jay Sean Barham is hurt this week. I mean, sorry, yeah, not Jay Sean Barham, Ernest Hausman. Unfortunately, Ernest Hausman is hurt this week. I guess he'll be a game time decision. I don't expect him to go. I remember when he got hurt in the Washington game and he went off the field. I remember seeing it. I remember kind of being putting my eyes on it and saying, damn, but we got Jimmy Rolder and we got Cole Sullivan bringing up the rear at linebacker. We also have Tony Bowles that can come in and do his thing. And Michigan State features Jordan Hall, who's a junior and a very, very, very heady linebacker, and Wayne Matthews the third, who's a senior transfer, who's trying to get his kind of feet up under him in the Michigan State program. Give me the matchup edge in linebacker to Michigan, because when Cole Sullivan drops back, he can really cause problems for your uh intermediate passing game. He's a very good hook to curl slant defender as middle backer. And I like what he's gonna do in this matchup. As a matter of fact, if he drops in the flat, and they try one of those lollipop screens, Cole Sullivan might be just right there to either pick it off or blow it up. So line, give me the Michigan linebackers as an edge in this matchup. Give me the Michigan linebackers as the edge in this particular matchup. And I like what they do. I like the way the D line really is a problem for most teams. So our linebackers get to be very free flowing and attack the perimeter, attack downhill, and really wreak havoc. I hope Ernest Hammer Hausman is able to come back sooner rather than later. If not, get healthy soon, bro. We're gonna need you for the rest of the season. Hope it's just a lower body extremity thing that you got to heal up. All right, real quick. And lastly, let's talk about DBs. Okay, let's talk about Michigan State's DBs. Their nickel is Aiden Willie. Their corner is Joshua Eaton, really good senior transfer, defensive back, frisky kid, takes some chances, but spicy at the point of attack. Nikolai Martinez is your free safety. He can be had. And Malik Spencer is your strong safety. He could be had in some RPO situations because he looks to jump in the box and be very, physical. But now let's talk about Michigan's defensive backfield. Uh, you got Zeke Berry, who is coming on strong after his injury and becoming forever the tactician. Um, has a couple of picks on the season. We need Jair Hill to be all the tactician that Zeke Berry is. I know they prep together and they study film together. So hopefully a little bit of Zeke Berry is rubbing off on Jair Hill. They both cover really, really well. I just like to see uh, Jair Hill be better at the point of attack, get that head around, and instead of being so handsy, um, pick the ball off, bat the ball down, right? Instead of being so grabby on these receivers. The Michigan safety room is very dynamic. You got Mason Curtis at 6'4", really, really rangy dude. He got caught up last week in a little bit of a baseball turn versus Washington. Then you got TJ Metcalf, um, who's a really talented defensive back. I think he should be playing half field safety. But of course, they got Rob Moore playing there. He was hurt, so we'll wait and see if he's going to be a game time decision to be in there. But you got not Jay Barton. You got uh, what's my guy's name from the transfer from Michigan State playing safety for the Michigan Wolverines. He's probably licking his chops this week to get on the field and contribute. Jada Mangum is licking his chops this week to get on the field and play some safety versus his old school. And of course, he's probably given Michigan a lot of tips and tricks of the trade so that Michigan can be victorious in that regard. And then, of course, you have the hit stick, Brandon Hillman, and Brandon Hillman needs to work on following through with his tackles, not just being so super, super happy to lay somebody out. Look, I played with my hair on fire as well, bro, as a linebacker. My big edge in football was knocking somebody on their behind too. But at a certain point, you got to make sure you can make the freaking tackle. But I love how we line up. I love the way our DB room lines up. We get significant contributions from Jacob Oden, Jaden Sanders, and oh man, what's the young man's name that played with Bryce Underwood at his high school? Let me look at the roster real quick. Shamari, not Shamari Earl. Uh, not Jordan Young. Elijah Dotson. Elijah Dotson is another heady nickel replacement DB, maybe a dime DB. Maybe some of that rolling four or some of that rolling three. You can put him in there, and he will do a really good job. Um, they got to work on that catch technique as young freshman DB. But I like their guttiness. I like their grit and their spice. They there to get that work in. I'm gonna give the DB matchup to the Michigan Wolverines. I think our safety room is just a little bit too dynamic for Michigan State, and that will be the result on how the day goes because I think our DBs will get more play out of our DBs, and we'll see some turnovers coming from our DBs in that regard. So let's review. Well, actually, we don't have to review. The edge matchup goes to the Michigan Wolverines. You know what I'm saying? Because they outrank and they won more head up matchups per position, you know, than the Michigan State little bro Sparties. Okay, so we're giving this edge matchup to the Wolverines. They're better in blue chip ratio, and they have more specialties across the board as a team. All right, and they won more edge matchup kind of lineups and position analysis. All right, so we're gonna get back to it. We're gonna get back to it and do it like we're supposed to. This is the Big House Breakdown. Everything NCAA and Michigan focused. Okay, so let's get to the eye in the sky. So the eye in the sky is our particular way on the Big House Breakdown of talking about the health, the character, and the momentum of every team. So the health, Michigan State is pretty healthy. We all know that football is a war of attrition, meaning, at this point of the year, week 9, every team is going to have someone ailing, someone railing, somebody in your starting lineup who may be playing, but maybe might be babying something and trying to get through it. But for the most part, they're pretty healthy. Their problem is their cohesion as a team. Their character, well, they're trying to play through their rough patches in their season. They've lost 4 games. So it's not a whole lot of character, We'll see if they have a lot of character, actually. If they play a full 60 minutes and they don't throw in the tank versus Michigan, then you'll see. And, it's a rivalry game. So that very well may happen. This is probably going to be their Super Bowl, their playoff, because they're not going to the playoffs. Michigan is more of a chance and more probable to do that than Michigan State. So their character is 50-50. Their health is stock up. Their momentum, they don't have a lot of mo. They losing a lot of games. Um, People don't really like their coach. They want their coach out of there in certain press circles and Michigan State circles. Um, a lot of people don't even want to come on national TV or national or social media nationally and talk about what Michigan State has to offer in this rivalry because they don't have a lot of mo. Ain't a lot to say. You hoping against hope here with this team. So stock down on their momentum, 50-50 on the character, and on the health is stock up. So one out of the three usually means the eye in the sky is poor with the Michigan State Spartans during rivalry week. So the Michigan Wolverines, we are 5-2 on the season and got everything ahead of us. We wish we had that Oklahoma game back. I guess they would game plan a lot better and with a lot more ferocity. But the health of this team is a concern. We lost Link. Uh, Ernest Hausman is ailing. We hope Justice Haynes can go. It's a lot of injuries going on, man. Even Marlon Klein, we hope he can go. So, I'm not sure if this is effectual because of our strength and conditioning program or if this is just attrition on the season. So, stock, I'll say heartbeat, which is like down the middle, because we still field a pretty good team that'll wear you out in 60 minutes. We're not ailing that way. And the health of our, number one commodity, our on defense is Jay Sean Barham, and on offense it's, Bryce Underwood. And both of them seem to be pretty healthy on the year. I know they said last week Bryce Underwood was dealing with something, but I'm sure he got the training and the health patch up that he needed. Now character. Love the comeback win from last week against Washington after that poor performance versus USC. They decided the season wasn't over. They decided we were made of sterner stuff. Michigan decided we were going to go back to work on the fundies. They brought out the boa constrictor. They brought out form tackling and, technique and what they do. And it just resulted in 3 turnovers and a really, really healthy win versus a really good Washington squad who has a really dynamic offense and momentum. So Michigan has momentum. Why? Because we still have all of our goals ahead of us, and Bryce Underwood and our defense from a turnover perspective had their best game of the year last week against Washington. So we got a little bit of a mo. We want to keep this train rolling, though. You know what I mean? We got Jordan Marshall. He's looking every bit the train on at the running back position for us, and we're building a lot of mo. And we have a very very preferable schedule where we play some teams that we could just kind of steamroll through, if you know what I'm saying. Bryce Underwood pad them stats, and we keep moving up that top 25 depth chart for the AP press and getting them playoffs. So eye in the sky, edge goes to Michigan because 2 out of the 3 are stock up and really progressing in a great way. All right, so the game inside the game. Let's get to it. Game inside the game. It's rivalry week, right? Fight in the tunnel, fights on the field, punching in the huddle, folks getting, giving each other nut shots, pause. They just getting at each other in real dirty, physical ways. This will be a physical brand of football this week. This is bragging rights for many of the young men who play on Michigan and Michigan State that live in the state of Michigan. All eyes on Michigan and the country, for that matter, will be on this game. Little brother, as Michigan State is referred to, will try to, will try to fend off the ghost of little brother this week. And of course, but they can't because of the momentum on their season not looking too good. They're not too good of a shape this during this time as a team. They do have talent. They do have ways to beat you downfield, but we have answers for those as well. The game inside the game will look a little something like this. Michigan will come out, I guess, running the ball and RPOing it with Bryce Underwood, especially when you know uh, Bryce Underwood can read that they're bringing 5 and he can hit McCulley on hot routes, slant routes, hook the curls, and fade balls when they attempt to bring more in the blitz and leave pockets, intermediate pockets to attack in the passing game. Um, Not a whole lot to say about the game inside the game this week. I think Michigan is a much more physical team than Michigan State. I watched the game against who was Michigan State just playing? Um UCLA. UCLA was more physical than Michigan State, top to bottom. And I mean, Michigan State has some athletes on that D line, but they got some big booger bears on that D line. But for the most part, they were more physical UCLA. And I don't think UCLA's brand of physical is Michigan's brand of physical, not in any universe. So I think Michigan keeps on the physical edge, run the ball, play physical defense uh, on our side of the ball. Bring the hit stick this week on Frazier. That will essentially take him out of the game. Bring the hit stick this week against uh, the Michigan State wide receivers, marshing them, and I think we will be victorious. Um, watch out for screens. Watch out for quick game from Aiden Childs. Watch out for misdirection and maybe even some special teams. Um, they may take a page out of the New Mexico game and try to test us with some special teams. Fake punt, fake PAT type of deal, maybe even a reverse on kickoff, try to utilize Michigan speed against us, maybe even an onside, unexpected onside kick so they can get a another possession. What I think will end the game early for Michigan State will be turnovers. If Michigan can get turnovers from our safeties, turnovers from our linebackers and Cole Sullivan, turnovers from our defensive end and strip sacks, I think we will. If we get 3 turnovers in this game, Michigan wins easy by two scores, 14 to 17 points at least, if not. Um, this game is not a pick 'em. Michigan is favored by a lot, by at least 3 scores. So, Michigan should win this game going. I see Andrew Marsh picking on those Michigan State corners, and I may even see a really big game out of Donovan McCulley because the corner number 7 out of Michigan State, he takes some chances and he likes to, be spicy at that corner position, and he might just get burned a couple times from Donovan McCulley, leading Michigan to have a big day passing against Michigan State. Michigan State doesn't really play the run very well or the pass very well. They depend on shootouts to win their games for the most part, um, unless they're playing inferior competition like FCS teams. So give me Michigan in a big win this week, especially if we can get anything out of our kick return game and our punt return game. If our kick return game and our punt return game could help us flip the 50, flip the field, give us positive yards going in the other team's direction, in scoring position, we will win this game hands down. Give me Michigan winning this game 35-7. That's right, you heard it. 35-7. I think Michigan State is a give up team, and all you need to do is force some turnovers, and you will lower the morale of this team. And the floodgates were open because of a really soggy, bad offensive line that features a bad right tackle and a bad uh, left guard. And Wink Martindale knows how to scheme and drive teams crazy with weak links on the offensive line. I think he may even discover a third weak link on the offensive line, which is the left tackle, but that remains to be seen. Like I said, give me Michigan in a blowout win 35-7 over Sparty in rivalry week. And, we want to also go over some Michigan recruiting. Now, that's not something that we normally do on the show. And I got a couple of, but it's flip season. And I got some requests to do some and talk about some Michigan recruiting during flip season. Why is it flip season? Because it's almost November. And all these college young men, all these college recruits are looking to decide where they're going to go to school next year, even though they committed to their respective college football programs early on in the spring and the summer. But it's flip season. Nobody signed on a dotted line yet, and there are some things to talk about as far as Michigan is concerned. And it would only be, right to round off the show talking about flip season. Okay, so to start flip season, we want to start talking about the jewel of the crowns are still very much Michigan down, Michigan centered, Michigan focused. I'm talking about Xavier Hyder, Carter Meadows, and Moose Ludwig, our tight end. Those are the crown jewels of our recruiting cycle for this year. They have made their returns to Michigan, and they are damn near recruiting for us too. They said they've made their commitments. They've showed how down they are for the Michigan Wolverines. Nobody's going to flip them. Nobody's going to interfere in their recruitment with Michigan. But the the quarterback, dual threat quarterback out of Detroit, out of Cass Tech, Donald Tabron, 6'3" prospect. He looks up to Underwood. um, Ranked 29th in the nation. He was at the game versus Washington. He should be a 5-star. He probably will be once his season is over. State champ. He can make all the throws. And Michigan has to secure the local Michigan talent out of Detroit. So Donald Tabron was at the game, likes the Michigan Wolverines, continues to favor us in that way. Moonshine Sales. Moonshine Sales out of Lawrence North High School. Super talent out of Indiana. Quoted as the number one wide receiver in the 2027 class. 6'5", 200 pounds with elite freaky speed. I'm sure NIL would be involved, but Munshawn already says he likes Michigan, but he has about 9 other blue blood schools that are recruiting him. Matthew Gregory, another speedy wide receiver out of Roberts High School in Jersey. Shout out to all my family in Jersey. 6 foot 170, ranked 40th nationally, elite speed, track kid, really, really good. Was at the big house for the Washington game. Really likes what he sees in Michigan. I think he wants to be at Michigan. That is your Matthew Gregory recruit. Quentin Burrell, 6'2", 195. Another more of a physical talent at wide receiver. More of your CJ Johnson or more of your Donovan McCulley type of a receiver. Physical catcher, great big catch radius, and Michigan is in a fight with Notre Dame for his wide receiver services. I think you should have at least one wide receiver in your group that offers you that physical, Michael Irvin uh, type of talent where you can kind of go up, get the ball, be physical, post up against smaller, thinner defensive backs, and win those 50-50 balls. Okay, so that's Quentin Burrell. So look out for those recruits. Donald Tabron, the quarterback, Munshawn Sales, the wide receiver that likes Michigan, highly ranked. Matthew Gregory, out of Pennsylvania, speedy wide receiver. Quentin Burrell, physical wide receiver. Now let's get to some flips. This is one of my favorites. Flip season. Love flip season. Why? Because recruits get to think twice. They get to think twice. They get to see teams in live action. Sometime in the spring and the summer and the winter when teams are off, all you get to hear is people wax poetic about how great their school is. But then when you playing, when you get that play, and these dudes ain't for play, then you get the second thinking like, yo, should I really rock with this team? Every year they seem to do the same stuff. I better go to a team that has an identity and knows what they're doing. And offensive lineman Sean Stover was at the Michigan game thinking that very same thing. He's a Duke commit. Um, like Xavier Crimpin, he's from the Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas area. Um, really big, 6'3", 290. So he has a lot of frame to put more meat on the bone. He projects to be like a guard. fleet-footed kid. He seems to really like his time at the big house watching Washington, watching us beat Washington, and look out for him to be a flip target for Michigan. Tommy Froman from Loyola Academy, 6'8" offensive line and a senior riser and a rival and on three rankings. This kid loves the maize and blue. He will probably flip. They're putting in a crystal ball, several crystal balls for him to flip. Adrian Hamilton, another offensive lineman out of DC. He is climbing the ranks in the rival rankings, and Michigan wants to add at least one more offensive lineman in this recruiting cycle to the maize and blue during this recruiting cycle. So Stover, Froman, or Hamilton will be one of those linemen added. If not two, I don't. I gotta check and see how much room we still have in the roster for linemen this recruiting cycle. Julian Walker, that super duper cock diesel uh, defensive end out of South Carolina, whose father is the strength and conditioning coach for the South Carolina Gamecocks, committed to Michigan, came, fell in love, loved what he's seen, loved the strength and conditioning program. We're trying to keep him locked in as a recruit because South Carolina's coming heavy. They probably coming heavy with the NIL, throwing a bag at him. But he's still dedicated and down with Michigan, but he's being romanced heavily by South Carolina. I like him to project to what some of our old defensive ends of the past have amounted to, especially like your Hutchisons and your Ajabos. He can really be a day one starter with his physicality that he brings to the position, and his physical work ethic and his conditioning. I think his conditioning will be a really, 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 really hot get for Michigan because it'll be all muscle, less fat. He probably got 5% body fat on him. The kid, he's a stunner. Um, we got to keep him in the pocket. He will be our, future starter at defensive end. You heard it here first on the Big House Breakdown. Jamarion Vincent committed to Baylor, a cornerback, ranked 17th quarterback in the nation in the 2026 class. Lamar Morgan is hard at work getting him. Michigan always wins commitments over Baylor. We will see if some NIL gets involved in this one. Nick Abrams, the linebacker. We need Nicky. Come on, Nick. You know you want to rock with Michigan. I don't know if Michigan wants to promise him, automatic playing time because he's committed to Georgia. He's ranked 15th nationally. I'm sorry, he's the 15th ranked linebacker. He's ranked 155th overall. So any recruit that you can get in the top 200 is usually going to be a dog. Is usually going to be someone that's going to be a gamer. Of course, NIL and the timing of NIL will be interesting for Michigan to implore in this recruitment. Um, he'll be back in the big house for the game against Ohio State. I like him. He reminds me of our offensive, our middle linebacker during our championship run. Um, Hopefully, he reads the field a little bit better. C.J. Brunner, quarterback, committed to the Florida Gators, and you know how the Florida Gators are right now. They having a fire sale down there in the swamp. You know what I'm saying? This this is he's ranked the 14th corner, 118th prospect overall, and Coach Morgan. This is a Coach Morgan specialty. This recruit, he's going to. These are his stomping grounds. This is what he recruits that area, Florida and Texas, really well. I think he will do enough to pull Brunner into the Michigan defensive backfield as a recruit. And the highly rated Davon Benjamin. I hope Davon Benjamin is still checking for the Michigan Wolverines. He We were his second choice, but he committed to Oregon. He's the sixth ranked DB in the nation, 44th overall. His quicks, his tech, his closing speed, and his football IQ is off the charts. We need DBs like that. We haven't had a DB like that since Will Johnson. We need another Will Johnson. Get NIL involved in that, Michigan. Get Davon Benjamin in the maize and blue. Coach Morgan needs to steal this talent from the Ducks. Hopefully, the Ducks will keep losing. Michigan will keep rising, and that makes Davon Benjamin rethink his commitment. And then last but not least, we got Khalil Taylor, who's a wide receiver from Penn State. Penn State is having a fire sale also because of all their problems. Rape State just got rid of their coach. Khalil Taylor is a highly ranked wide receiver, and he will be in A2, the big house, for the Ohio State game. We want to leave an impression on him in that particular game. And that will do it for our big house breakdown this week. Our rivalry week preview on the show. Y'all tap in for that nighttime kickoff matchup. I believe it's on NBC or Peacock or one of those streaming channels. Y'all make sure y'all tune in. Make sure y'all root for the maize and blue, or at least come back to this channel and tell us what you think of my prognostication. Will the old line fall? Will the Michigan Boa train come to town and steamroll over Sparty? Will there be another fight in the tunnel? I don't know. Do you know? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and turn on your comments and notifications so that every time we have a big house breakdown, you too could be a part of it and talk your NCAA college football ish with us. And as always, I'm going to say peace and go blue.